All right, this is lecture 5 for World War II. Today we're going to talk about the European theater. We're going to go into two sections of it, so we're going to split it in half today. So we're going to start with the start of it and then go through the end, through the Nazi surrender. All right, so the first idea that we're going to talk about is the Allied war plan. So Churchill and FDR get together and they meet and they decide that they want to attack Germany first and get after Germany first before they get after Japan, because they feel that the Nazis are more of a threat to both of them than the Japanese are. Okay, so we take the offensive in Europe and we take an active defense in the Pacific. All right. So the first battle we'll talk about is the Battle of the Atlantic. Okay, you can see obviously Atlantic ships. It's going to be a sea battle, and this battle is actually takes the whole period of the war from 1939 to 1945. Basically, we're trying to get our supplies and our men and our military troops and whatnot across the Atlantic to get them to the war, and the Germans don't want us to do that. So that's basically what the war is fought, or the battle is fought over in the Atlantic. They want to control the shipping lanes, and Hitler wants to starve out Britain and the Soviets by preventing us to get there. Okay, and ours is the opposite. Okay, we want to get Hitler, or we want to get Stalin, and we want to get Churchill supplied so they can fight the war against Germany. All right, so it's German U-boats. They're called wolf packs when they kind of join together. When they're just one at a time, they all kind of get together, and they're called wolf packs versus the Allied ships. Okay, so we start to use the convoy system, and the convoy system is really important. Okay, we begin to have ships, go over in fleets, just tons and tons of ships together in order to try to protect themselves. If there's a few submarines and there's a bunch of destroyers out there sending off, depth charges, which are right here on the right side, or the hedgehogs that are launching, depth charges all across the ocean, and they're more likely to be sunk than if it's just one-on-one. Okay, we use radar and sonar. Sonar is basically radar underwater, and our mass shipping to help, basically win this battle. Next battle is the Battle of Stalingrad. We're not directly involved in this. This is between Hitler and the Soviets, and this is, after, or not the Soviets, sorry, the Russians. After Hitler has turned his back on Stalin, he, under Operation Barbarossa, he attacks he attacks Russia. It's one of the turning points of World War II because Hitler falls in the same category as Napoleon and does the same thing that Napoleon does as far as attacking Russia during the winter, and that's not good because the Russian winters are so cold and Russia is so vast that there's it basically makes it impossible to survive if you don't have supplies. Let me click this off. So artillery. Hitler's loss of manpower and artillery is so great that they never able to totally recover. They commit so fully to the Battle of Stalingrad that they kind of lose sight of what the war is really about. It's the bloodiest battle in human history. Combined fatalities reached near 2 million. Newly arriving Soviets or Russian soldiers' life expectancy is 1 day. All right, so it's pretty intense. The way that the Russians fight is they just send as many people at the battle as possible because that's one of the biggest resources they have is manpower. Okay, and Hitler, as far as Hitler trying to take Russia, he kind of makes a mistake of really fighting over Stalingrad when it's not really necessarily that important of a target. He could have won if he just would have gone around it, but he focused so much on defeating and winning Stalingrad because of the name. It's called Stalingrad. He wanted to take out Stalin's namesake city. All right, so it's a major industrial city, but it wasn't really that important. Okay, securing the city would allow Germans to route to the Caucasus oil fields in Russia. But again, as I said, the propaganda is that it bore the name of his arch nemesis, therefore he wanted to take it. So it's kind of the reason why it was such a big deal to him. Basically what happens is in the battle, there's German bombings of the cities. There's lots of Russian civilians that are helping to fight back and trying to protect themselves from the battle. It's real urban warfare. It's like they're stepping into the cities and fighting each other in buildings, in homes, in apartments, all those things, hand-to-hand, knives, and all that stuff. Mother Nature plays a role with the freezing winter, and the Russians trap the German forces inside the city, and they start to attack their own city. So it's pretty interesting techniques. And the Russians were not afraid to do anything. They would use scorched earth techniques to burn everything around them so that the Germans wouldn't have supplies, and then they'd retreat once they lost the city. The last thing we're going to talk about today is the North African front. Okay, this is where we're going to start to enter the war and use our force to help defeat the Nazis. So Stalin is pleading for there to be another front because at this point France has fallen. There's only really one front. Hitler has turned away from France and he's obviously occupying it, but he's still, most of his forces are fighting towards Russia, and Stalin wants them to open another front. He knows how important that is. So what he does is we kind of fall into what Stalin wants, and we go through ahead with Operation Torch. And basically, we want to prevent Axis powers from taking over the control of the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean Sea. It's huge shipping ports, and if they have control of that, they're going to have control of getting everything into Italy and other Mediterranean ports, and they're going to have a lot of power. This battle is between Rommel, General Rommel of Germany. He's called the Desert Fox versus our forces led by Eisenhower and then later by Patton. And they're going to kind of do a little squeeze action on Rommel to defeat him. All right, so it's called the Great Trap. Okay, at the east at El Alamein, Rommel fails to take Egypt and is pushed back by the British Allied forces led by General Montgomery. And they chase Rommel west. Okay, and in the west, there's 107,000 Allied troops, and they land in Casablanca near Algiers in North Africa. And east meets the west at Tunisia, and the Axis forces surrender there. All right, and we'll talk about Casablanca here finally. The Casablanca conference between Roosevelt and Churchill. Stalin's not invited. This is 1943. Basically what they're doing is they've decided that they want to have an unconditional surrender of the Axis, and they want to aid the Soviet Union through an invasion of Sicily and Italy. So once they take North Africa, they want to go through Sicily and Italy and take those areas in order to start like kind of moving up the boot of Italy into Germany and kind of taking them out that way. So then we open another front on the war, as opposed to going through France, where they know it would be really difficult to land forces in France. And they felt that Italy would be a lot easier task than that. All right, and that's it.